Welcome. My name is Vern Turchin. I'm the product line manager for Forge and Special Crops with Acharya based in Lethbridge. I've known Dr. Acharya for the past 18 years in my time spent in Lethbridge, and my passion for many of us here today for the forge industry, much of that contribution by Dr. Acharya is very important to us, as many of us, we always are forge people if we enter that field. So a very interesting part of Dr. Acharya's life I'd like to share with you very briefly as we introduce him, not only from a professional perspective, but personally as well too. So there are two concepts that are very recurrent here today, and Alexander talked about change, how we have to change in what our contributions to the world, a very wholesome and very important part of the profession that we hold. And the second one is that the Honorable Mike Duffy spoke about immigration and how we're talking about 250,000 people with very high skill level to enjoy the country that we value so much. So two concepts Dr. Acharya holds very importantly. So number one, change. So he has been instrumental in what we represent as 27 million acres of forge production in Canada. Very big part of, and a very good opportunity and very important part of our agricultural sector. The second is his contributions, and it's fitting that we're in Atlantic Canada. My first visit to Atlantic Canada, spent a day in Halifax, and how impressive that was. Pier 21, if anyone's been to Pier 21, from 1928 to the mid-70s, many hundreds of thousands of immigrants came to Canada. It was very powerful for my wife and I. Her wife was, her grandmother was a war bride. So the power of coming to Canada. So Dr. Acharya made a decision to come to Canada and to benefit us through the change in his immigration. And we're very thankful for that. So a little bit of his history. Dr. Acharya graduated with a Bachelor of Science in Agriculture from the College of Agriculture in 1969. 1971, Masters in Genetics and Plant Breeding from the Orissa University of Agriculture, first in his class. So the first class, he was number one. I'm going to interject for a second. He told me earlier that he's a bit of a deviant. He comes from 3 generations of lawyers and judges. So I'm not sure if maybe the perspective is wrong, but seriously, in imperial times, in English India, his grandfather was a judge and held very high ranks. So he broke from tradition and entered agriculture. In 1974, he applied and received a scholarship to the University of Saskatchewan and immigrated to Canada. And in 1979, he received his PhD from the University of Saskatchewan working on barley genetics. For 4 years, he worked under Dr. Keith Downey, a renowned scientist in Canada. He was working on cold tolerance and seedling canola. In 1984, he entered the Alberta Research Council in Vegreville to work on native plant species as a plant breeder in that location. So a significant contribution in terms of the development of 9 new native grass cultivars. So philosophically, very driven individual. He chose these cultivars under very high stress conditions and had to do his selections at very remote and very desolate, high elevation conditions. And many of his cultivars are the preferred cultivars for use in parks, reclamation, and native range today. In 1989, Dr. Acharya became the plant breeder, the forge breeder with Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada in Lethbridge. And for the past 23 years, he's developed 12 cultivars of 5 different forage species. I think the interesting part to note is that Dr. Acharya works very diligently to create solutions to many of the problems that we face. So his vision in terms of changing agriculture has been consistent. So some of those examples include the development of a brand new species called perennial cereal rye. So the thought of using a perennial cereal in a grazing and silage forage situation for silage and for grazing is a novel change. He also introduced AC Tristar fenugreek. So fenugreek is a new legume with the potential to have an impact from a forage performance perspective and also containing natural hormones to help improve animal feed potential. Part of the interesting comments about Dr. Acharya is it's not just about developing varieties, but it's also creating the seed production protocols. It's really, we all know, really useless for us if we can't grow good seed stock, and also the production technologies that associate with it. Sicer milk vetch is one example. There's tons of interest with urea prices exceptionally high and fertilizer prices very high. For production agronomics for forages, it's very important if we can manage our fertilizer costs. Non-blowed legumes and using legumes in pasture situations is something very important to him. So his current work for Dr. Acharya include advances in blowed-free pastures and acid-tolerant alfalfa. He's the executive director of the International College of Nutrition. So interestingly, using some of the products that he's developed for the improvement of human health. On a personal note, his wife is here, Nina, if you can stand. His lovely wife, Nina. Senator Duffy said the surprise about every successful man was an interesting comment. She has no surprise. He is a very diligent, dedicated member of our society. Nina holds a PhD in sociology. They have two daughters, Sheila, who's a practicing associate at DLG Law Firm in Calgary, and Sharmila, who has a master's in environmental engineering and works in Stantec Consultants in Calgary. So we have 4 individuals who we are blessed to have in our stead that are masters or PhD folks dedicated to improving our society. We're blessed with 2 granddaughters. Surya is president of the Southern Alberta Ethnic Association, very proud of our connection with those folks in improving the world that we live in. He's a great contributor to agriculture, and over the past 33 years has made significant contributions to our society. Dr. Acharya, I'd like to congratulate you on your well-deserved award and introduce Dr. Surya Acharya, the winner of the 2012 Canadian Plant Breeding and Genetic Award.
Thank you very much, Vern, for those kind words. I have to look at a little bit of a note because I don't want to make too many mistakes when I am mentioning names and things like that. First of all, I must say, I get emotional a little bit about these things. This is probably the most humbling experience I have in my whole life. Coming from a very relatively less developed area of India, I never had dreamt that I will be in a situation like this and be accepting an award from a very prestigious and premier institution like Canadian Seed Trade Association. Sure, I have done few things in my life, but again, when I started my work in 1989 as a forage breeder, I never thought that I would get to this, because I was hired as an alfalfa breeder and I did not know anything about alfalfa. But interestingly, I had the interest to learn, and I still had few years to go. That's why I put a lot of emphasis and energy into learning all the things that are necessary for doing alfalfa breeding. And I have produced a few varieties of alfalfa. I'm still working on it. I will not quit until I probably finally retire or something like that. But the interesting thing is, alfalfa breeding, or any breeding for that matter, is not just individual effort. Sure, you are honoring me, and probably that is appropriate, but I'm not the only one doing the work. See, I'm here, but my work is going on. That means I have a large number of people helping me, supporting me in all this. And my technicians, my summer students, numerous summer students we use for our work, and the people, those who even prepare land, those who are in the office helping our office work, all those people are actually part of this. And that is why I say that I'm accepting this award with them in mind. Few people I think I should mention on the way who actually were instrumental in even getting me or helping me live in Canada, and one of them is Dr. Keith Downey. He is, you probably all know, he is considered the father of canola crop in this country. He was my immediate supervisor. After my PhD, I worked with him for 4 years, and I learned a lot from him. Not only that, I also learned how to organize my time, because he was a very busy man but could do a lot of work on the side, including helping people like me. And University of Saskatchewan actually sponsored me for my immigration. Without that, I wouldn't be here. And I think without this CSTA members and all those who nominated me, including Mr. Turchin, Roger Snow, I heard that 5-6 people nominated me for this award. I am really indebted to them, and I feel that only because of their help, I'm standing in front of you here and giving this speech and getting the award. I thank you all, and also I would like to mention that the funding agencies are also partly responsible for our success. In plant breeding, we need a lot of physical help, that means pairs of hands we use. I do traditional plant breeding. I don't have those lab techniques, I don't use very much. Most of my selections and everything is done in the field itself. But we do test them for different things like their quality and other things. So we use all kinds of techniques, but my plant breeding methods are all classical, traditional breeding methods. One thing I would appeal to this group is, please keep that in mind and help those students, professors, and even research scientists with Agriculture Canada to train more new plant breeders. Without that, probably we will not be there for very long. So with that, I would say that I thank you. I really appreciate this honor. And again, I would not only thank those who nominated and supported my application, but all of you to be here. Without you, probably it would not be as a life experience as it would be, as it is now. So thank you very much.